The morning sun was just coming up over the tall buildings of Los Angeles. The street was already getting busy with people walking fast to get to work. Cars honked their horns in the heavy traffic. Nobody seemed to notice the man sitting on the corner of 5th Street. He sat on a piece of old cardboard that he had flattened out on the concrete sidewalk. His back rested against the rough brick wall of a closed store. Next to him was an old green duffel bag. It held everything he owned in this world. The bag was faded and torn in places, with his name written on it in black marker that had almost worn away completely. The man was in his late 50s, but he looked older. His face was lined with deep wrinkles that came from too many years of sleeping outside in all kinds of weather. His hair was gray and thin, but he kept it cut short. His beard was also gray, and he trimmed it every few days with a small pair of scissors he kept in his pocket. Even living on the street, he tried to keep himself neat and clean. He wore an old military jacket. It was green and had patches sewn on the sleeves. The jacket was worn thin in many places, and some of the patches were coming loose. But he never took it off even on warm days. That jacket was important to him. It reminded him of who he used to be. On the ground in front of him was a piece of cardboard. He had written on it with a black marker. The words said, "Homeless veteran. Anything helps, God bless." The letters were neat and straight, written by a steady hand. He didn't hold the sign up or wave it at people. He just let it sit there and speak for itself. Most people who walked by didn't look at him. They kept their eyes straight ahead or looked down at their phones. Some people crossed to the other side of the street when they saw him. A few dropped coins into the old coffee can he kept by his feet. When someone did give him something, he always said thank you. His voice was quiet but clear. The veteran sat with his back straight even though it hurt to do so. Years of military training had taught him to sit up tall, and he couldn't break that habit even now. His hands rested on his knees. His fingers were rough and calloused from hard work he used to do. Now those hands had nothing to hold, nothing to build, nothing to fix. He watched the people walk by and wondered about their lives. That woman in the blue dress, where was she going so fast? That man with the briefcase, did he have a family waiting at home? That young couple holding hands, were they happy? He used to have a life like that. He used to rush to work. He used to have someone waiting for him at home. His mind drifted back to other mornings long ago. Mornings in Iraq when the sun came up over the desert and turned the sand orange and gold. Mornings when he woke up in his barracks with his brothers in arms. They would joke around while getting ready for patrol. They complained about the heat and the food, but they looked out for each other. They were a family. He remembered the day he came home from his 3rd tour. He was proud of his service. He had done his duty. He had protected his country. But coming home was harder than he ever expected. The world seemed too loud, too fast, too confusing. He couldn't sleep at night. When he did sleep, the nightmares came. He saw the faces of friends who didn't make it home. He heard explosions that weren't really there. His wife tried to understand, but after a while it became too much for her. She told him he wasn't the same man she married. She was right. He wasn't. That man died somewhere in the desert, and this broken version came home in his place. The divorce papers came on a Tuesday. He signed them without arguing. After that, things got worse. He started drinking to quiet the noise in his head. He lost his job at the factory because he couldn't focus. The bills piled up. First, the car got taken away. Then the bank took the house. His daughter stopped calling. She said it hurt too much to watch him destroy himself. He didn't blame her. He tried to get help from the VA hospital, but the waiting list was months long. He filled out papers, but nothing seemed to happen. The system was complicated, and he got lost in it. There were so many forms, so many offices, so many people telling him to wait. While he waited, he ended up on the streets. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of sleeping in doorways and under bridges. 3 years of standing in line at shelters for a meal and a cot. 3 years of being invisible to the world around him. But even after all this time, some things stayed with him. He still woke up at dawn like he did in the military. He still kept himself as clean as he could with the resources he had. He still sat up straight. And when he saw someone who looked like they might have served in the military, he still felt that connection, that bond that never quite goes away. A young mother walked by with a little boy. The child stared at the veteran with big, curious eyes. The mother pulled him along quickly, telling him not to stare. The veteran smiled sadly. He remembered when his own daughter was that age. She used to hold his hand and ask him a million questions. Where did those years go? How did he end up here? The morning wore on. The sun got higher in the sky and warmed his face. More people passed by. More cars drove past. The city moved around him like a river flowing around a stone. He was there but not really part of it anymore. He existed on the edges, in the margins, in the forgotten spaces between the lives of people who had homes and jobs and families. A businessman in an expensive suit walked by talking loudly on his phone. He stepped around the veteran without even glancing down. A teenager on a skateboard rolled past, earbuds in his ears, lost in his music. Two women walked by, laughing together about something funny that happened at work. None of them saw him. To them, he wasn't really there, but the veteran didn't feel angry about it. He was past anger. He just felt tired. Tired of being cold at night, tired of being hungry, tired of carrying everything he owned in an old bag, tired of waking up every morning to the same hard reality. This was his life now, and he had accepted it even if he didn't like it. He thought about what he would do with the day ahead. Maybe he would walk to the library. They let him sit inside and stay warm for a few hours. The librarian there was nice. She never made him leave as long as he was quiet. Or maybe he would go to the park and sit under his favorite tree. Sometimes other veterans gathered there, and they would talk about old times. Those conversations were good. They reminded him that he wasn't always like this. He used to matter. He used to have a purpose. The veteran closed his eyes for a moment and let the sun warm his face. For just a second, he could pretend he was somewhere else, somewhere better. But when he opened his eyes, he was still on the same corner, in the same old jacket with the same empty coffee can beside him. It was almost noon when the black SUV pulled up to the curb. The veteran noticed it right away because it was different from the other cars. It was big and expensive looking, with dark windows that you couldn't see through, the kind of car that important people rode in. The engine turned off, and for a moment nothing happened. The veteran watched with mild curiosity. He had learned to notice things on the street. Sometimes noticing details kept you safe. Sometimes it just gave you something to think about to pass the time. The driver's door opened first. A man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked around carefully, the way security guards do. Then he walked around to the back door and opened it. That's when the other man got out. He was tall and muscular, built like someone who spent a lot of time in the gym. He wore dark sunglasses, a black t-shirt, and jeans. Even from a distance, the veteran could tell this man had presence. The way he moved, the way he carried himself. There was confidence in every step. The man in sunglasses said something to his driver, then started walking down the sidewalk. He seemed to be heading toward the coffee shop on the corner. But as he walked, something made him slow down. Maybe he saw the veteran's military jacket. Maybe he noticed the cardboard sign. Whatever it was, the man's attention shifted. The veteran saw the man looking in his direction. For a moment, their eyes met. Well, the veteran couldn't actually see the man's eyes behind those dark glasses, but he could feel the gaze. He had learned to tell when someone was really looking at him versus when they were just glancing past him, like he was part of the scenery. Without really thinking about it, the veteran's body reacted. His military training kicked in like it was yesterday instead of 15 years ago. His back straightened even more. His right hand came up in a crisp salute. His fingers were together, straight and tight, thumb along his hand. His arm formed a perfect angle. His eyes looked straight ahead with respect. The man in sunglasses stopped walking. He stood completely still for a few seconds. The veteran could sense surprise in that stillness. Then something remarkable happened. The man reached up and took off his sunglasses. He tucked them into his shirt collar. Then he brought his own hand up and returned the salute. It wasn't a sloppy salute. It wasn't the kind that people who never served might give as a joke. This was a real salute, given with precision and respect. They held that position for just a moment. Two men acknowledging each other in the way that soldiers do. Then both men lowered their hands at the same time like they had practiced it together. But the man didn't walk away. Instead, he turned and walked directly toward the veteran. His driver started to follow, but the man held up his hand to tell him to stay back. The man in the black t-shirt crossed the sidewalk and stopped a few feet away from where the veteran sat. "You served?" the man asked. His voice was deep and clear. "Yes, sir," the veteran replied. His voice came out rougher than he expected. He didn't talk to many people these days. "Army, 3 tours in Iraq," the man nodded slowly. "My father was in the military." So was my grandfather. I grew up around the service. I know what that salute means. He paused. Can I sit down? The veteran was surprised by the question. Most people didn't want to get too close. They certainly didn't ask to sit down next to him on the dirty sidewalk. Sure, he said, gesturing to the space beside him. The man lowered himself down and sat on the concrete. He didn't seem to care that his expensive jeans would get dirty. He sat with his back against the wall in almost the same position as the veteran. For a minute, neither of them spoke. They just sat there, watching the people walk by. What's your story? The man finally asked. How did you end up here? It wasn't asked in a mean way or a judging way. It was asked in the way someone asks when they genuinely want to know. The veteran wasn't used to that. He hesitated, trying to figure out where to start. Got back from my last deployment in 2010, he began slowly. Things were okay for a little while. But I couldn't sleep. Kept having nightmares. Loud noises made me jump. Crowds made me nervous. I tried to push through it, you know? Tried to be normal. The man nodded but didn't interrupt. My wife left first. Can't blame her. I wasn't the same guy she married. Then I lost my job. Started drinking to make the noise in my head stop. Lost my house. My daughter stopped talking to me. I tried to get help from the VA, but the system is complicated. There were forms and waiting lists and appointments. I got lost in all of it. He paused and looked down at his hands. That was 3 years ago. Been on the streets ever since. The man listened to every word. He didn't check his phone. He didn't look distracted. He just listened. PTSD? He asked gently. Yeah, the veteran said. That's what they call it. Back in my day, they called it shell shock. Whatever you call it, it's hell. Do you have any family? Anyone who could help? Daughter in San Diego. But I haven't talked to her in 5 years. I think it's better that way. She has her own life now. Doesn't need her mess of a father dragging her down. The man was quiet for a moment, thinking. What if there was a way to get help? Real help, not just the VA runaround. What if someone could help you get back on your feet? Would you want that? The veteran felt a strange feeling in his chest. It might have been hope, but he had forgotten what hope felt like. I don't know, he said honestly. I've been down so long, I'm not sure I remember how to get back up. But if someone offered, would you try? The veteran looked at the man for the first time, really looked at him. Behind the expensive clothes and the muscular build, he saw something familiar. He saw someone who understood about duty and honor and not leaving people behind. Yes, he said quietly. I would try. The man pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts and then made a call. Hey, it's me, he said when someone answered. I need you to do something. There's a veteran who needs help, real help. I want you to connect him with that program we support. The Veterans Housing Initiative. Yeah, the good one. He listened for a moment. No, I want him in the program by the end of the week. Whatever it takes, I'll cover it personally. The veteran sat there, not quite believing what he was hearing. The man talked on the phone for a few more minutes, giving details and making arrangements. When he hung up, he turned back to the veteran. Someone's going to call you, he said. Probably in the next day or two. They'll set up a meeting. This program can help with housing, job training, mental health services, benefits advocacy, all of it. But you have to show up. You have to do the work. Can you do that? I don't have a phone, the veteran said. The man thought for a second. Where do you sleep? There's a shelter on 7th Street. I stay there sometimes when they have room. The man made another call. He spoke to someone at the shelter explaining the situation. He made sure they would give the veteran a message when the program called. When he hung up, he stood up and brushed off his jeans. What's your name? He asked. The veteran told him. Well, it was an honor to meet you, the man said. He held out his hand. The veteran stood up, his knees aching from sitting so long. He shook the man's hand. The grip was strong and firm. Thank you, sir, he said. I don't even know your name. The man smiled a little. Just a guy who thinks you deserve better than this. He put his sunglasses back on. Remember, when they call you, show up. This is your chance. Don't waste it, the veteran nodded. He couldn't speak. His throat felt tight with emotion he hadn't felt in years. The man walked back to his SUV. His driver opened the door and he got in. The vehicle pulled away from the curb and disappeared into traffic. The veteran sat back down slowly. He looked at the busy street, at the people walking by, at the same scene he had watched 1,000 times before. But something was different now. Something had changed. A complete stranger had stopped and seen him. Really seen him. not as a homeless person to avoid or pity, but as a fellow human being who deserved respect. He touched his chest where his heart was beating faster than usual. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something he thought was dead: hope. The next 2 days felt different for the veteran. He kept thinking about the man in the sunglasses and the conversation they had. He wondered if it was real. Sometimes on the streets, reality and imagination got mixed up. Sometimes you wanted something so badly that your mind played tricks on you, but the memory felt solid and real. On the 3rd day, the veteran went to the shelter on 7th Street around lunchtime. He didn't always go there because the lines were long and sometimes they ran out of beds. But today he felt like he should check in, just in case. The woman at the front desk recognized him. Her name was Sarah, and she had been working at the shelter for 10 years. She had seen hundreds of homeless people come through those doors. Some got back on their feet. Most didn't. She always tried to stay kind even when it was hard. "Someone called for you," Sarah said as soon as she saw him. She sounded a little surprised and a little excited. "They called twice, actually. Said it was important." The veteran's heart started beating faster. "Who was it?" "The Veterans Housing Initiative. They want you to come in for a meeting tomorrow morning at 10. They left an address." She handed him a piece of paper with information written on it in her neat handwriting. "This is a good program. One of the best. I don't know how you got connected with them, but don't miss this meeting." The veteran took the paper. His hands were shaking a little. "I'll be there," he said. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay on the thin cot in the crowded shelter room and stared at the ceiling. Around him, other men snored and shifted in their sleep. Someone was coughing. Someone else was talking in their sleep. These were the normal sounds of shelter life. But tonight they seemed different. Maybe this would be one of his last nights in a place like this. He thought about what he would say at the meeting. He thought about what they might ask him. He worried that he would mess it up somehow, or that they would take one look at him and realize he wasn't worth helping. But then he remembered the man in sunglasses and the way he had saluted back. That respect wasn't fake. That moment had been real. The next morning, the veteran got up early. He used the shelter's bathroom to wash up as best he could. He shaved carefully with a disposable razor. He combed his hair. He put on his cleanest clothes, which weren't very clean, but they were the best he had. He looked at himself in the mirror. His face was still lined and weathered, but his eyes looked different. They had a spark in them that hadn't been there in a long time. The Veterans Housing Initiative office was in a low building in a nicer part of town. The veteran took the bus there, using the last of his spare change for the fare. He arrived 15 minutes early because military training had taught him that if you're not early, you're late. The reception area was clean and bright. There were chairs to sit in and magazines on a table. Pictures on the walls showed veterans who had been helped by the program. They were smiling in the photos, standing in front of new apartments or at their new jobs. The veteran looked at those pictures and tried to imagine himself in them. A young woman at the desk greeted him warmly. "You must be our 10 o'clock appointment," she said with a smile. "They're ready for you. Come on back." She led him down a hallway to a conference room. Inside, 3 people were waiting for him. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a professional suit. A man about the veteran's age with a military haircut and a friendly smile. And a younger man with glasses and a clipboard. "Please sit down," the woman said, gesturing to a chair at the table. "I'm Rebecca, the housing coordinator. This is Tom, our job counselor, and this is David, who works with VA benefits." The veteran sat down carefully. He felt out of place in this clean, professional environment. He was used to sitting on sidewalks and sleeping in shelters. Places like this weren't for people like him anymore. "First of all, thank you for coming," Rebecca said. "We're here to help you. We know that you served our country, and we believe that you deserve support in getting back on your feet." Tom leaned forward. "We've been doing this for a while. We understand that transitioning back to civilian life can be tough. And we understand that sometimes things go wrong and people need a second chance. That's what we're here for. Someone sponsored your participation in our program," Rebecca continued. "That means all of our services are available to you at no cost. We can help with temporary housing, mental health services, job training, and navigating the VA system." The veteran found his voice. "Who sponsored me? Was it the man I met? I don't even know his name." Rebecca smiled gently. "Our donor requested to remain anonymous. But yes, someone believes in you and wants to help. Now we need you to believe in yourself and do the work. David, the benefits specialist, spoke up.
Have you filed for VA disability benefits for your PTSD?
I tried, the veteran said. But the paperwork was confusing. I filled out some forms a couple years ago, but I never heard back. That happens a lot, David said, not sounding surprised. The VA system is complicated and it's easy to get lost in it. But that's what I'm here for. I can help you file properly and follow up. PTSD from combat service should qualify you for benefits. We just need to get the documentation right. Rebecca opened a folder. Let's start with the basics. We have a studio apartment available in our temporary housing program. It's small but clean, furnished, your own bathroom and kitchen. You can stay there while we work on the other things. Does that sound okay? The veteran felt his eyes getting wet. He blinked hard. He wasn't going to cry in front of these people. Yes, he managed to say. That sounds really good. The apartment is yours starting today if you want it, Rebecca said. We can go see it after this meeting. But there are rules. No drugs, no alcohol. You have to meet with a counselor twice a week. You have to participate in the job training program. And you have to keep working with David on your benefits. Can you commit to that? Yes, the veteran said firmly. I can do that. Tom pulled out some papers. For job training, what kind of work are you interested in? What did you do in the military? I was a mechanic. Fixed vehicles, generators, all kinds of equipment. I liked working with my hands. Perfect, Tom said, making notes. We have a partnership with a technical training center. They have courses in building maintenance, HVAC repair, electrical work, things like that. Those are good jobs with decent pay. Would you be interested in something like that? The veteran thought about it. He hadn't imagined having a job again. He hadn't let himself think that far ahead. But now sitting in this room with these people who actually wanted to help, it seemed possible. Yes, he said. I'd like that, Rebecca smiled. We also want you to meet with our mental health counselor. Dr. Martinez specializes in working with veterans who have PTSD. She's really good. A lot of guys say she helps more than any other counselor they've seen. The veteran hesitated. He had tried therapy before and it hadn't worked. He had sat in offices and talked to people who nodded and took notes but didn't really understand. Is she a veteran? He asked. No, Rebecca said. But her father was. And she's been working with veterans for 20 years. Give her a chance. If after a few sessions you don't think it's helping, we can talk about other options. Okay, the veteran agreed. I'll try. They spent the next hour going over paperwork. The veteran signed forms and gave information. He provided his service records, his social security number, his daughter's contact information for emergency purposes. With each form he signed, he felt like he was building something, like he was putting pieces of a life back together. When all the paperwork was done, Rebecca stood up. Ready to see your apartment? The veteran stood too. Yes, ma'am. They drove in Rebecca's car to a building about 10 minutes away. It was a simple, clean building in a quiet neighborhood. Not fancy, but respectable. Rebecca led him up to the second floor and unlocked a door marked 2C. The apartment was small, like she had said. But to the veteran, it looked like a palace. There was a real bed with clean sheets, a small couch, a table with 2 chairs, a kitchen with a stove and refrigerator, and the bathroom had a shower with hot water. It's not much, Rebecca said, but it's yours. The veteran walked slowly into the center of the room. He turned in a circle, taking it all in. It's perfect, he said quietly. Rebecca handed him 2 keys. One for the main door downstairs, one for your apartment. Your first counseling session is Thursday at 2. Tom will call you tomorrow about the job training schedule, and David will start working on your benefits claim right away. After Rebecca left, the veteran sat on the couch. He just sat there in the quiet, clean space. His own space. He got up and turned on the faucet in the kitchen. Water came out clean and clear. He turned on the shower. Hot water steamed up the bathroom. He opened the refrigerator. Someone had stocked it with basic food. Bread, milk, eggs, some fruit. He went back to the couch and sat down again. Then something inside him broke. All the walls he had built up over 3 years of living on the streets crumbled. He put his face in his hands and cried. He cried for the man he used to be. He cried for the years he had lost. He cried for his daughter who he had failed. But mostly, he cried because someone had seen him. A stranger in sunglasses had stopped and saluted him, had treated him with respect, had given him a chance when he thought there were no chances left. The veteran woke up in his new apartment confused. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The bed was too soft. The room was too quiet. He had gotten used to waking up on hard surfaces with noise all around him, but then he remembered. He sat up and looked around the small studio. The morning light came through the window. This was real. This was his place. He got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. The tile floor was cold under his feet, but it was clean. He turned on the shower and waited for the water to get hot. When steam started rising, he stepped in. The hot water ran over his body, washing away more than just dirt. It washed away some of the shame and hopelessness he had been carrying. He stood under the water for a long time. In the shelter, you only got 5 minutes. Here, he could take as long as he wanted. It was such a simple thing, but it felt like a luxury. He washed his hair twice. He scrubbed his skin until it was red. When he finally got out, he felt more like a human being than he had in years. After getting dressed, he made breakfast in his little kitchen. Just scrambled eggs and toast, but he cooked it himself on his own stove. He ate at his own table, looking out his own window. These small, normal things felt like miracles. There was a knock on the door around 10 in the morning. The veteran felt a moment of fear. Old habits from living on the street made him cautious of unexpected visitors. But when he opened the door, it was Tom from the Veterans Housing Initiative. "Morning," Tom said with a friendly smile. "Just wanted to check in and see how your first night went." "Good," the veteran said. "Really good." "Come in." Tom stepped inside and looked around. "Place looks nice. You settling in okay?" "Yeah, it's strange, you know? Having walls and a door. But strange in a good way." Tom sat down at the table and the veteran sat across from him. "I wanted to talk to you about the job training program," Tom said, pulling out a folder. "We have a few options, but I think the building maintenance course would be perfect for you. It's 12 weeks long. They teach you everything from basic plumbing to electrical work to HVAC systems. When does it start?" "Next class starts in 2 weeks. That gives you time to get settled here and start working with Dr. Martinez. The training is Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. They even give you a small stipend while you're in the program. It's not much, but it helps with bus fare and food." The veteran nodded. "I want to do it. I need to do something. Need to stay busy." "That's a good attitude," Tom said. "Staying busy helps. Gives you structure and purpose. That's important for everybody, but especially for people coming out of situations like yours." He paused. "Can I ask you something? How are you feeling?" "Really feeling?" The veteran thought about it. "Scared," he admitted. "Scared I'll mess this up. Scared it's too good to be true, but also hopeful. I haven't felt hopeful in a long time." "That's normal," Tom assured him. "This is a big change. It's okay to be scared, but I've seen a lot of guys come through this program. The ones who make it are the ones who take it one day at a time. Don't worry about next month or next year. Just focus on today." "Can you do that?" "I think so." Tom stood up to leave. "Your first session with Dr. Martinez is tomorrow at 2. Don't miss it, and call me if you need anything. My number's in the folder." He shook the veteran's hand. "You're doing good. Keep it up." After Tom left, the veteran spent the rest of the day just being in his apartment. He organized his few belongings. He took another shower just because he could. He lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. He tried to imagine what life might be like a few months from now. Would he have a job? Would he be stable? Would he be happy? That night he made dinner and ate while watching the news on the small TV that came with the apartment. It felt normal. It felt like what regular people did. He went to bed at 9, and for the first time in years he slept through the night without nightmares. The next day was Thursday. His appointment with Dr. Martinez was at 2. He spent the morning cleaning the apartment, even though it was already clean. He needed something to do to keep his mind from spinning. At 1:30 he took the bus to the counseling center. Dr. Martinez's office was warm and comfortable. There were plants on the windowsill and calm paintings on the walls. She was a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her dark hair and a gentle smile. She invited the veteran to sit in a comfortable chair. "I'm glad you're here," she said. "This is a safe space. Whatever you say stays between us. I'm not here to judge you or fix you. I'm here to help you process what you've been through and develop tools to move forward." The veteran sat stiffly in the chair. "I've tried therapy before. It didn't help much. That's okay," Dr. Martinez said calmly. "Not every therapist is the right fit for every person. And sometimes we're not ready for therapy when we try it the first time. Sometimes we need to be in a better place physically before we can do the mental work. She leaned back in her chair. Why don't you start by telling me about your military service? That was easier to talk about than his life on the streets. The veteran told her about joining the Army when he was 20, about basic training and his first deployment, about the friends he made and the work he did. His voice got more comfortable as he talked about those years. What was the hardest part of being deployed? Dr. Martinez asked. The veteran was quiet for a moment. Losing people, he finally said. We lost 3 guys from my unit in my second tour. One of them was my best friend. We were on patrol and there was an IED. He died right there. I couldn't do anything to help him. I'm sorry, Dr. Martinez said softly. That's a trauma that stays with you. I see his face sometimes, the veteran admitted. When I'm trying to sleep, or sometimes during the day just randomly. I'll be doing something normal and then suddenly I'm back there. Those are flashbacks, Dr. Martinez explained. They're a common symptom of PTSD. Your brain is trying to process something it couldn't process at the time. We can work on techniques to help you manage those moments when they happen. They talked for the full hour. Dr. Martinez didn't push too hard. She let the veteran talk at his own pace. When the session was over, she scheduled him for the next week. You did good today, she said as he was leaving. Opening up is hard, especially the first time. But you did it. That takes courage. Over the next few weeks, the veteran fell into a routine. He met with Dr. Martinez twice a week. He started the job training program. He worked with David on his VA benefits claim. Every day was a step forward. The job training was hard at first. He had to get up early and be somewhere on time. He had to focus and learn new things. His brain felt rusty after years of just surviving, but slowly it got easier. His hands remembered how to work with tools. His mind remembered how to solve problems. The other people in the training program were a mix of backgrounds. Some were young and just starting out. Some were older and trying to change careers. A few were veterans like him. He didn't talk much at first, but eventually he started having conversations during breaks. It felt good to be part of something again. Dr. Martinez helped him work through his PTSD. She taught him breathing exercises for when he felt a panic attack coming. She helped him understand his triggers. She encouraged him to write in a journal about his feelings. At first he thought it was silly, but then he found it actually helped to put his thoughts on paper. One day in his 5th week in the program, the veteran got a phone call. It was David from the VA benefits office. I have good news, David said, sounding excited. Your disability claim was approved. You're getting 70% disability for PTSD and some physical issues. The monthly payment is going to be about $1,500, and it's retroactive, so you'll get back pay from when you first filed years ago. The veteran sat down slowly. How much back pay? Around $40,000. It should come through in about a month. $40,000. The veteran couldn't even process that number. He had been living on a few dollars a day. He had been counting change to ride the bus, and now he would have $40,000. What should I do with it? He asked David. Save most of it, David advised. You're going to need first and last month's rent when you move into a permanent place. You'll need money for furniture and supplies, and you'll want an emergency fund. This money can give you a real foundation to build on. After hanging up, the veteran just sat in his apartment. He thought about all the times he had sat on that street corner with his cardboard sign. All the times he had been hungry and cold and hopeless. And now, because a stranger in sunglasses had stopped to talk to him, his whole life was changing. He thought about his daughter. He hadn't talked to her in 5 years. Maybe once he was more stable, he could try to reach out. Maybe she would be willing to give him another chance. The thought scared him, but it also gave him something to work toward. That night, the veteran cooked himself a proper dinner. He made chicken and vegetables and rice. He set the table like he was having guests, even though it was just him. He poured himself a glass of water in a real glass. As he ate, he thought about how far he had come in just a few weeks. He thought about the man in sunglasses. He still didn't know who he was. The program wouldn't tell him, and he had respected that privacy. But he wanted to say thank you. He wanted that man to know that his kindness had saved a life. After dinner, the veteran wrote a letter. He wrote about where he had been and where he was now. He wrote about the hope he had found. He wrote about wanting to pay it forward someday. He sealed the letter in an envelope and addressed it to the Veterans Housing Initiative, asking them to pass it along to his anonymous donor. The veteran didn't know if the man would ever read it. but it felt important to say thank you, to acknowledge that one person's compassion had changed everything. 6 months had passed since that day on the street corner. The veteran looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. He had gained back some weight. His face didn't look as thin and tired. His eyes were clearer. He looked like someone who had a place to live and a reason to get up in the morning. He finished getting ready for work. It was his first day at his new job. After completing the 12-week training program, he had been hired by a property management company as a building maintenance technician. It wasn't a fancy job, but it was honest work with decent pay and benefits. Real benefits, including health insurance. The work uniform hung in his closet, clean and pressed. He put it on carefully. The shirt had his name stitched on the pocket. Seeing his name there made it feel official. He was a working man again. He had a purpose. His apartment looked different now than it did when he first moved in. He had used some of his back pay money to buy a few things: a better lamp for reading, some pictures for the walls, a small bookshelf with books he was slowly reading, a plant that he watered every morning. These small touches made the place feel like a home, not just a temporary stop. The job was at a large apartment complex across town. The veteran took the bus there, arriving 30 minutes early on his first day. His new boss, a man named Carlos, met him in the maintenance office. "Good, you're early," Carlos said approvingly. "That's what I like to see." He was in his 40s with kind eyes and rough hands that showed he knew the work. "Let me show you around." Carlos took him through the property, showing him the boiler room, the supply closets, the tool shop. He explained the systems and where things were kept. The veteran paid close attention, asking questions when he needed to. His military training had taught him to learn fast and follow instructions carefully. "We've got a good team here," Carlos said. 3 other maintenance guys plus me. We look out for each other. You got any problems, you come talk to me. I hired you because the training program said you were reliable and did good work. Just keep doing that and we'll get along fine. The first week was a learning curve. Every building had its quirks, and this one was no different. But the veteran's hands remembered the work. He fixed leaky faucets and running toilets. He replaced light fixtures and patched drywall. He helped install a new washing machine in the laundry room. The work felt good. It felt productive. His co-workers were friendly. There was Mike, who had been doing maintenance for 20 years and knew every trick in the book. There was young Danny, fresh out of school and eager to learn. And there was Robert, who was quiet but solid and always willing to help. They treated the veteran like part of the team from day one. During lunch breaks, the men would sit together and talk. Sometimes about work, sometimes about sports, sometimes about nothing important. The veteran mostly listened at first. He was still getting used to normal conversation, still learning how to be around people again without feeling anxious. One day, Mike asked him where he had learned maintenance work. The veteran told them about his time in the Army, fixing vehicles and equipment in Iraq. The other men listened with interest. "Thank you for your service," Danny said sincerely. The veteran nodded. "It was a long time ago." "Doesn't matter when it was," Mike said. "Still counts." Meanwhile, the veteran continued meeting with Dr. Martinez twice a week. The sessions were getting easier. He talked more freely now about his experiences, about the things he had seen in combat, about losing his friend, about the shame he felt for ending up homeless. "You know," Dr. Martinez said during one session, "shame is one of the hardest emotions to work through. You feel like you failed, like you should have been stronger. But PTSD isn't a personal failing. It's a natural response to trauma. Your brain and body went through things they weren't designed to handle. I just keep thinking about all the time I wasted," the veteran said. 3 years on the streets. 3 years I can never get back." "You didn't waste those years," Dr. Martinez said firmly. "You survived them. That took strength, even if it doesn't feel like it. And now you're rebuilding. That takes even more strength." She taught him more coping techniques, how to ground himself when he felt a flashback coming, how to recognize the early signs of depression and anxiety, how to reach out for help instead of isolating himself. These tools were like weapons in a battle, except the enemy was inside his own mind. One evening, after a particularly good day at work, the veteran did something he had been thinking about for weeks. He called his daughter. His hands shook as he dialed the number. He had gotten it from the emergency contact forms he filled out months ago. He didn't know if she would answer. Didn't know if she would want to talk to him. The phone rang 3 times, then 4. Hello? Her voice was cautious, probably because she didn't recognize the number. Sarah? His voice came out rough. It's Dad. There was a long silence. Then Dad? Is that really you? Yeah, it's me. I know it's been a long time. I know I don't have the right to call. But I wanted you to know that I'm doing better. I'm getting help. I have an apartment and a job. I'm sober, and I'm working on fixing the things that were broken in me. Another pause. Where have you been? He told her the truth. About being homeless. About living on the streets. About the man who helped him get into the program. About the work he was doing to rebuild his life. He didn't make excuses or try to minimize what had happened. He just told her honestly. I'm sorry, he said when he finished. I'm sorry for everything. For not being the father you deserved. For disappearing. For all the years I was drunk or angry or just not there. I understand if you don't want to see me. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better. Sarah was crying. He could hear it in her voice when she finally spoke. I thought you were dead, she said. I thought I had lost you forever. I was lost, he admitted. But I'm finding my way back. One day at a time. They talked for over an hour. She told him about her life. She was married now. She had a good job as a teacher. She lived in San Diego with her husband. She had thought about him often, wondering where he was and if he was okay. Can I call you again? He asked before hanging up. Yes, she said. Please call, maybe we could meet for coffee sometime, if you want to. I would really like that. After hanging up, the veteran sat quietly in his apartment. He felt lighter somehow, like a heavy weight had been lifted off his shoulders. His daughter didn't hate him. She had been worried about him. She was willing to give him a chance. That was more than he deserved, but he was grateful for it. The months continued to pass. Summer turned to fall. The veteran got better at his job. Carlos gave him more responsibilities. The back pay from his VA benefits sat mostly untouched in a savings account. He lived simply, saving money for the future. He continued his therapy sessions, though they dropped to once a week. Dr. Martinez said he was making excellent progress. The nightmares still came sometimes, but not as often. When they did, he used the techniques she had taught him to manage them. On weekends, he volunteered at a local VA center. He helped other veterans fill out forms and navigate the benefit system. He knew how confusing it could be, and he wanted to help others avoid getting lost in it like he had. The work felt meaningful. It gave him a sense of purpose beyond just surviving. One Saturday, while volunteering at the VA center, an older veteran asked him how he had gotten back on his feet. The veteran told him about the program that had helped him, about the housing and job training and counseling. But how did you get into the program? The older man asked. I tried to get help, but there are waiting lists for everything. The veteran thought about the man in sunglasses, about that moment on the street corner when everything changed. Someone helped me, he said simply. A stranger who didn't have to stop but did. And now I'm trying to help others the same way. He gave the older veteran the contact information for the Veterans Housing Initiative. He explained what services they offered. He encouraged him to reach out and not give up. As the older man left, looking more hopeful than when he arrived, the veteran felt a deep satisfaction. This was what paying it forward looked like. Sarah came to visit him in October. It was their first face-to-face meeting in over 5 years. The veteran waited nervously in his apartment, checking the clock every few minutes. When she knocked on the door, his heart was pounding. She looked different. Older, more mature, more confident. But her eyes were the same. She looked at him for a long moment, taking in the changes in his appearance. Then she stepped forward and hugged him. They both cried. They spent the afternoon together. He showed her his apartment. They had lunch at a small restaurant nearby. They talked about everything and nothing. There was awkwardness sometimes, gaps where words failed. But there was also love, still there after all these years, waiting to be rebuilt. I'm proud of you, Dad, Sarah said as she was leaving. For fighting your way back. For not giving up. I did give up for a while, he admitted. But someone reminded me that I was worth saving. After she left, the veteran stood at his window and looked out at the street below. The sun was setting, painting everything in golden light. He thought about how different his life was now compared to a year ago, how he had been sitting on a sidewalk, hopeless and invisible, and now he had a home, a job, his daughter back in his life, and a future that looked bright. He thought about the man in sunglasses. He still didn't know who he was, but that stranger's kindness had started a chain reaction. It had given the veteran a second chance at life, and now the veteran was using that second chance to help others. Life wasn't perfect. He still had bad days, days when the memories were too loud and the anxiety too strong, days when he felt like he might slide back into the darkness. But he had tools now to fight those feelings. He had people he could call. He had reasons to keep going. As darkness fell over the city, the veteran made dinner in his little kitchen. He set the table for one, but he didn't feel alone. He felt connected to the world in a way he hadn't in years. He felt like he belonged somewhere, like he mattered, and that made all the difference. It was a Tuesday evening in November, almost a year after the encounter on the street corner. The veteran had just gotten home from work. He was tired but satisfied. He had spent the day fixing a broken heating system in one of the buildings. It was cold outside, and knowing that families would have heat that night felt good. He took off his work boots and hung up his jacket. His apartment was warm and cozy. He had learned to make it comfortable over the months. There were curtains on the windows now, a throw blanket on the couch. The small TV he had bought at a thrift store sat on a simple stand. The veteran made himself a simple dinner of pasta and vegetables. He had learned to cook better over the past year. Dr. Martinez said that taking care of himself, including eating well, was part of healing. He sat down on the couch with his plate and turned on the TV. He flipped through channels, not looking for anything in particular. Just background noise while he ate. A cooking show. A home improvement program. The news. He was about to settle on a nature documentary when something made him stop. There was a man being interviewed on an entertainment show. The veteran's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He knew that face. The strong jaw. The muscular build. Even sitting in a chair wearing a nice suit, the man had that same presence. It was him. The man from the street corner. The man in the sunglasses. The veteran turned up the volume, his heart beating faster. The interviewer was asking questions about a new movie. The man answered with humor and charm. His voice was the same deep voice that had asked, "You served?" "And Vin, you're also known for your charity work," the interviewer said. "You don't talk about it much, but you support several organizations, particularly those helping veterans. Can you tell us about that?" Vin Diesel, that was his name. The veteran realized with shock that this was a famous movie star, someone who millions of people knew, and he had had no idea when they sat together on that sidewalk. "My family has a long history of military service," Vin Diesel said on the screen. "My father, my grandfather. I grew up with deep respect for the men and women who serve our country. So when I have the opportunity to give back, to help veterans transition back to civilian life, I do it. These are people who sacrificed for all of us. The least we can do is make sure they have support when they come home." "Do you visit these programs? Meet with veterans?" the interviewer asked. Vin smiled slightly. "Sometimes, but I don't do it for publicity. I do it because it's the right thing to do. These men and women don't need a celebrity. They need real help. Housing, jobs, mental health services, that's what matters." The interviewer moved on to other topics, asking about upcoming films and projects. But the veteran barely heard the rest. He sat frozen on his couch, staring at the screen. His dinner forgotten, getting cold on the plate. This whole time he had been helped by someone famous. Someone who could have just walked by. Someone who probably had a million things to do that day. But instead he had stopped. He had sat down on a dirty sidewalk. He had listened. And he had made a phone call that changed a life. The veteran thought back to that morning. He remembered how the man had returned his salute with precision and respect. How he had asked questions and really listened to the answers. How he had pulled out his phone and made arrangements without hesitation. There had been no cameras, no publicity, no announcement, just one human being helping another. Now it all made sense. The expensive SUV, the security guard, the phone call that made things happen so quickly. This was someone with resources and connections, someone who could make a call and get things done. But what impressed the veteran most was that none of that had shown. The man had just been a man, talking to another man who needed help. The veteran picked up his phone. His hands were shaking a little. He wanted to do something, to reach out, to say thank you. But he didn't know how. He didn't have any way to contact someone famous. And part of him wondered if that was intentional, if the man wanted to remain anonymous. He thought about the letter he had written months ago, the one he had given to the Veterans Housing Initiative to pass along. Had Vin Diesel read it? Did he know how much his help had meant? The veteran got up and paced around his small apartment. His mind was racing. He thought about all the movies and shows where rich people or famous people help someone, and it becomes a big story. Cameras and news crews and social media. But that's not what happened here. This had been quiet, private, real. That night, the veteran couldn't sleep. He lay in bed thinking about everything. About how small moments can change entire lives. About how easy it would have been for Vin Diesel to just walk past that day. He had places to be, people waiting for him, but he had stopped. He had seen a fellow human being in need and had acted. The next morning at work, the veteran was quiet. His coworkers noticed. "You okay?" Carlos asked during lunch break. "You seem distracted." The veteran hesitated, then decided to share. "I found out something last night. About the person who helped me get into the program that changed my life." "Yeah? Who was it?" "Vin Diesel." "The actor?" Carlos's eyebrows went up. "The Fast and Furious guy?" "No kidding?" "No kidding. I had no idea when I met him. He was just a guy in sunglasses who stopped to talk to me when I was homeless. He made a phone call and my whole life changed." Mike, who was listening, shook his head in amazement. "That's something else, man. Most famous people do charity for the cameras. This guy did it for real." "That's what gets me," the veteran said. "There were no cameras, no publicity. He just helped because he could, because it was the right thing to do." Danny, the youngest member of the team, pulled out his phone. "Let me look him up." He searched for a moment, then showed the others. "Says here he's really involved with veteran causes. Has been for years. There are a few stories about it, but not many. Looks like he really does keep it quiet." The veteran looked at the articles on Danny's phone. There were a few mentions of charity work and veteran support, but nothing specific. Nothing that told individual stories. Just quiet support, year after year, helping people without needing credit for it. That evening, the veteran did something he hadn't done in years. He went to see a movie. There was a theater a few blocks from his apartment. He bought a ticket to one of Vin Diesel's films. He wasn't even sure which one it was. He just wanted to see the man on screen, to watch him work, to understand a little more about this person who had changed his life. He sat in the dark theater with a small bag of popcorn. When Vin Diesel appeared on screen, the veteran felt a strange mix of emotions: gratitude, respect, a sense of connection to someone he had met only once. The movie was an action film. Vin Diesel played a tough hero who fought bad guys and saved people. It was entertaining but also kind of funny to the veteran, because the real heroism wasn't the explosions and car chases on screen. The real heroism was stopping to talk to a homeless man on a sidewalk. That took a different kind of courage. When the movie ended and the credits rolled, the veteran stayed in his seat. He watched the names scroll by. Hundreds of people had worked to make this film. Vin Diesel was just one part of a huge team. But in the veteran's life, he had been everything. The difference between hopelessness and hope. Between being lost and being found. Walking home from the theater, the veteran thought about what to do with this information. Should he try to reach out? Should he let it be? The man had chosen to remain anonymous for a reason. Maybe he didn't want to be thanked. Maybe he just wanted to help and move on. The veteran decided to respect that privacy. But he also decided something else. He would honor the help he received by helping others, by being the kind of person who stops when he sees someone in need, by passing forward the kindness that had saved him. Over the next few weeks, the veteran couldn't help but notice Vin Diesel differently whenever he saw him mentioned in the news or on TV. He watched an interview where Vin talked about family and loyalty. He saw behind-the-scenes footage where Vin was kind to crew members and fans. He read an article about Vin's production company and the people it employed. Everything pointed to the same thing. This was someone who believed in helping people, who believed in loyalty and taking care of others. The movies were just what the world saw. The real person was someone who sat on sidewalks with homeless veterans and made phone calls that changed lives. One Saturday, while volunteering at the VA center, a young veteran came in. He looked lost and defeated. His clothes were dirty. His eyes were hollow. He reminded the veteran of himself a year ago. The veteran approached him gently. "Can I help you with something?" he asked. The young man looked up, suspicious at first, then just tired. "I don't know. I'm trying to get benefits, but the system is so confusing. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 months. I don't know what to do." The veteran sat down next to him. "I know exactly how you feel. I was where you are not that long ago. Let me help you." He spent the next 2 hours with the young veteran, helping him fill out forms, explaining the process, giving him the contact information for the Veterans Housing Initiative, telling him about programs that could help, offering hope when hope seemed gone. As the young man left, looking a little less lost than when he came in, the veteran felt a deep sense of purpose. This was it. This was how he thanked Vin Diesel. Not with words, but with actions. By being for someone else what that man in sunglasses had been for him. That night, sitting in his apartment, the veteran wrote in the journal that Dr. Martinez had encouraged him to keep. He wrote about discovering who his helper had been, about the shock and gratitude he felt. But mostly he wrote about understanding something important. Kindness doesn't need recognition to be real. Help doesn't need publicity to be valuable. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply see someone who feels invisible. Stop when you could keep walking. Listen when you could ignore. Act when you could pass by. A famous movie star had taught him that. Not through movies or interviews or publicity, but through one quiet morning on a street corner when he could have kept walking but chose to stop instead. The veteran closed his journal and looked around his apartment. At the life he had rebuilt. At the future that stretched ahead of him, full of possibility. All because someone had seen him when he was invisible. He would spend the rest of his life making sure he saw others the same way. 2 years had passed since that morning on the street corner. The veteran was now 49 years old, and his life looked completely different from what it had been. He no longer lived in the temporary apartment from the program. He had saved enough money to rent his own place, a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. Really his. He still worked for Carlos at the property management company, but now he was a senior maintenance technician. He trained new workers and handled the more complicated repair jobs. Carlos had given him a raise twice and often said he was the most reliable worker he had ever hired. The veteran's relationship with his daughter had grown stronger. Sarah visited once a month now. They talked on the phone every week. She had told him he was going to be a grandfather. When she shared that news, the veteran had cried tears of joy. The idea that he would get to be part of his grandchild's life felt like a gift he didn't deserve but was grateful to receive. His therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez had dropped to once a month. She said he had made remarkable progress. He still had bad days. The PTSD didn't just disappear, but he had learned to manage it. He knew his triggers. He had coping strategies. And most importantly, he knew when to reach out for help instead of suffering alone. On this particular Saturday morning, the veteran was doing what he did most weekends now. He was at the downtown Veterans Transition Center, volunteering as a peer counselor. He had completed a training program to become certified. Now he spent his free time helping other veterans who were struggling to adjust to civilian life or dealing with homelessness. The center was busy today. Veterans came in for various reasons. Some needed help with paperwork. Some needed a meal. Some just needed someone to talk to who understood what they had been through. The veteran knew all of these needs. He had experienced all of them himself. He was working at the front desk when a young man walked in. The veteran guessed he was in his mid-20s. He wore an old army jacket that had seen better days. His jeans were dirty. His backpack looked like it held everything he owned. But what struck the veteran most were his eyes. They were empty, defeated, lost. The veteran recognized that look immediately. It was the same look he had seen in mirrors and reflections when he was living on the streets. The look of someone who had given up hope. Someone who was just going through the motions of surviving without really living. The young veteran stood awkwardly near the entrance like he wasn't sure he should be there, like he might turn around and leave at any moment. The veteran got up from the desk and walked over slowly. He didn't want to startle him or seem threatening. Years of living on the streets had taught him that people in crisis needed gentle approaches. "Hey there," the veteran said with a kind smile. "Welcome. Can I help you with something?" The young man looked at him with those hollow eyes. I don't know. Someone told me this place helps veterans. His voice trailed off like he didn't have the energy to finish the sentence. You served? The veteran asked gently. Yeah, Marines. 2 deployments in Afghanistan. Got out 8 months ago. His voice was flat, emotionless. Well, you came to the right place. I'm a veteran too. Army, Iraq. Why don't you come sit down and we can talk about what you need? The young man followed him to a small table in the corner. The veteran grabbed 2 cups of coffee from the pot that was always brewing and brought them over. The young veteran wrapped his hands around the warm cup like he was cold, even though the center was heated. What's your name? The veteran asked. Jake. Nice to meet you, Jake. I'm here to help. No judgment, no pressure. Just tell me what's going on. At first, Jake was reluctant to talk, but the veteran was patient. He had learned patience in his own recovery. He sipped his coffee and waited. Finally, Jake started to open up. I've been sleeping in my car for 3 months, Jake said quietly. Lost my job. Can't pay rent. Can't seem to hold anything together. I try, but he shook his head. Nothing works. Do you have family? The veteran asked. Parents in Ohio, but I can't go back there. My dad doesn't understand what I went through. He thinks I'm weak. Thinks I should just toughen up and get over it. The veteran nodded. I know that feeling. People who haven't been in combat don't understand what it does to you. It's not about being tough or weak. It's about trauma and how our brains process it. Jake looked up with a flicker of interest. You get it. I do. Because I was where you are. Not that long ago, I was homeless. Living on the streets. No job, no hope. I had given up. I thought my life was over. What changed? Jake asked. The veteran thought about how to answer that. Someone stopped when he didn't have to. A stranger saw me when I felt invisible. He helped me get connected with a program that gave me housing, job training, counseling, everything I needed to rebuild my life, and that's what I want to do for you. Over the next hour, the veteran explained all the services the center offered. He helped Jake fill out intake forms. He set up appointments with a counselor and a benefits specialist. He gave him information about the Veterans Housing Initiative, the same program that had helped him. This program changed my life, the veteran told Jake. They can help you get housing, help you get stable, help you deal with whatever you're carrying from your deployments, but you have to show up. You have to do the work. Can you do that? Jake looked uncertain. I don't know if I can. The veteran leaned forward. Let me tell you something. 2 years ago, I was sitting on a sidewalk with a cardboard sign. I had lost everything. My wife, my house, my daughter, my dignity. I didn't think I could come back from that. But someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now look at me. I have an apartment, a job, my daughter back in my life. I'm about to be a grandfather. If I can do it, you can too. Something in Jake's eyes changed. Just a small shift, but the veteran saw it. A tiny spark of hope in all that darkness. Okay, Jake said. I'll try. The veteran spent the rest of the morning helping Jake. He made phone calls to set up appointments. He gave Jake bus passes to get to those appointments. He even gave him some money from his own pocket for food. Before Jake left, the veteran wrote his phone number on a card. Call me if you need anything, the veteran said. Anytime, I mean it. You're not alone in this. Jake took the card and held it carefully like it was something precious. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I thought nobody cared. I care, the veteran said firmly. And a lot of other people care too. You just have to let us help you. After Jake left, the veteran sat back down at the desk. His co-worker, another veteran volunteer named Tom, came over with a knowing smile. You were good with that kid, Tom said. He looked pretty far gone when he came in. You gave him hope. Someone did the same for me, the veteran replied. I'm just passing it forward. The rest of the day was busy. More veterans came in with various needs. The veteran helped where he could. Each person he helped felt like a small victory, like he was honoring the help he had received by giving it to others. That evening, after his volunteer shift ended, the veteran walked through downtown. It was the same area where he used to sit with his cardboard sign. He walked past that corner on 5th Street, the place where everything had changed. He stopped for a moment and looked at that spot on the sidewalk. A different person sat there now. A woman with tired eyes and worn clothes. The veteran walked over to her. He pulled out his wallet and gave her $20. Then he gave her a card with information about the Veterans Center and other resources. There's help available if you want it, he said gently. You don't have to do this alone. The woman looked surprised but grateful. Thank you, she whispered. As the veteran walked away, he thought about cycles. How pain and trauma could cycle through generations, creating more pain and trauma, but also how kindness could cycle too. How one act of compassion could start a chain reaction that touched many lives. Vin Diesel had shown him kindness on a random Tuesday morning. That kindness had saved his life. Now he was showing kindness to Jake, to the woman on the corner, to every veteran who walked through the center's doors. And maybe Jake would go on to help someone else someday. Maybe the woman would find her way to services and eventually help others. The cycle continuing, spreading outward like ripples in water. The veteran took the bus home to his apartment. When he got there, he made dinner and ate while looking through photos on his phone. There were pictures of him and Sarah from her recent visit. Pictures of his apartment. Pictures of his co-workers at a company barbecue. His life, documented in images. He thought about taking a picture of himself and comparing it to how he looked 2 years ago. But he didn't need to. He could feel the difference. It wasn't just physical, though he looked healthier and less worn down. It was internal. He felt solid, grounded, purposeful. His phone rang. It was Sarah. Hey, Dad, she said, sounding happy. Just calling to check in. How was your day? Good, he said, smiling. Really good. Helped a young Marine who was in a bad spot. Reminded me of myself a couple years ago. You do such good work at that center, Sarah said warmly. I'm proud of you, those words. I'm proud of you. They meant everything. The veteran's eyes got watery, but he was smiling. Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot. They talked for a while about everyday things. Sarah's job, her husband's new project at work, plans for Thanksgiving, which they would spend together for the first time in years. Normal family conversation, the kind the veteran thought he would never have again. After hanging up, the veteran got ready for bed. As he lay down, he thought about all the good things in his life. His job that gave him purpose. His daughter who had forgiven him. The grandfather he would soon become. The veterans he helped every week. The roof over his head and the food in his refrigerator. None of this would exist if not for one man stopping on one random morning. A famous actor who could have walked past without even noticing, but he didn't, he stopped. He saluted back. He sat down on a dirty sidewalk. He made a phone call, and he changed a life. The veteran would probably never meet Vin Diesel again, would probably never get to thank him in person. But that was okay. The best way to thank someone for saving your life is to make that life worth saving, to use the second chance they gave you to make the world a little better. That's what the veteran was doing. Every day at his job, fixing things and helping people. Every weekend at the center, giving hope to those who had lost it. Every phone call with his daughter, rebuilding the relationship he had broken. Every moment he chose kindness over bitterness, hope over despair. He was living proof that it's never too late to turn your life around. That no one is beyond help. That a single moment of human compassion can change everything. As sleep began to take him, the veteran's last thought was of Jake. He hoped the young Marine would show up for his appointments, would accept the help being offered, would find his way back from the darkness. And maybe someday Jake would sit with another struggling veteran and say, I was where you are. Let me tell you about the day someone stopped and saw me. The cycle continuing, the kindness spreading, one salute, one conversation, one life at a time. The veteran fell asleep with a smile on his face, grateful for second chances and the strangers who make them possible.